While being cross-examined about her $3.5 million ACLU pledge, Heard was finally forced to admit that she did not donate anywhere close to the amount that she pledged she was going to years ago, and now she could be in trouble for lying under oath. After the couple divorced in 2016, Heard said that she would split the $7 million divorce settlement between the Children's Hospital LA and the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, which would be about $3.5 million to each. At the time, she said she didn't want the money, rather she just wanted justice for Johnny's horrible actions towards her. But now that she's admitted to lying, legal experts claim she is in trouble. During her testimony, she stated that she has not donated the money yet because, quote, Johnny sued me for $50 million in March of 2019. However, Depp's lawyer Camille Vasquez argued that Heard had the money for months before the lawsuit, yet failed to donate the money as she promised. To make matters worse, during the UK libel trial, Amber Heard gave completely different testimony and did not admit to donating the money. Sean Caulfield, partner at law firm Hodge, Jones & Allen, told Mail Online today that Heard could face a perjury probe in the UK as misleading a court, quote, cuts to the core of our justice system. He also added police could in fact investigate these claims, continuing, quote, while it may not be a central issue to the case, the donations, perjury is the single biggest threat and cuts to the core of our justice system, so the police may be invited to investigate to show that any member of the public who lies to the court can be prosecuted for perjury. Clearly, in the grand scheme, this lie does little to answer the question of if Johnny Depp ever got physical with Amber, but it clearly helps Depp's side argue that she is a documented liar, and if she lied about the donations, she could lie about a lot more. Legal expert Mark Stevens also said police could blame the lie on not understanding the question asked rather than deliberately not telling the truth, saying, quote, it's notoriously difficult to bring and prosecute a perjury case. You have to show that someone deliberately told an untruth as opposed to them being confused or misremembering. I think it would be a very difficult thing to do. The mention of donating her divorce settlement first came up when Heard appeared on Dutch talk show RTL Late Night in 2018, where she said, quote, $7 million in total was donated. I split it between the ACLU and the Children's Hospital of LA. I wanted nothing. At the time, she made it clear that she had already donated this divorce money. However, ACLU Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel Terrence Dougherty testified earlier in the case that only $1.3 million has either been donated by Heard or on her behalf, with most of it coming from other sources like Elon Musk. Of that money, Heard contributed $350,000 directly in December of 2018, and she's not paid off any more since. A further $100,000 was paid by Depp, and another $350,000 came from a fund at Fidelity, an investment company assumed to be Elon Musk. Depp's team is stating that Heard is a blatant liar who used the claim of donation to gain sympathy from the public. However, Heard has fired back that she intends to donate the money once Johnny Depp stops suing her. Heard is also no stranger to perjuring herself. She was investigated back in 2015 by the FBI for lying about illegally bringing her dogs into Australia. Heard avoided charges after she publicly apologized and blamed a lack of sleep on why she did not fill the required paperwork. During the trial, Heard and Vasquez started talking about Heard and Depp's divorce. When asked about it, Heard said that she tried to keep the information on the divorce as private as possible, but she knew that when she filed the paperwork, media outlets would be able to see the public records. However, Depp's attorney had a different view and accused Amber of telling the paparazzi to be there when she filed for divorce, causing a massive news story for that day. The day that Amber did file for divorce, paparazzi were waiting outside the door to talk to her about what happened, almost as if they knew that she was there to file for divorce from Johnny. Vasquez also played a clip of Heard's previous deposition, where she essentially let it slip that she alerted TMZ. In the clip of the deposition, Heard was stating that she tried to warn Depp of the divorce before she filed so that he wouldn't be caught off guard. And she said, quote, I didn't want him to find out online that I had or was about to file for divorce. I wanted him to know verbally, so I was trying to reach him through a third party to tell him. Continuing, quote, I would like him to know that information so that he finds out about the divorce filing from some other source other than TMZ, which was alerted. And then in this deposition, Heard covered her own mouth because she realized she had just exposed herself. Vasquez then pressed her about exposing herself, but of course Heard denied telling TMZ about her divorce before she filed. Vasquez also pressed Heard about potentially giving other evidence to TMZ as well, like the video that leaked of Johnny banging up their kitchen. The kitchen video was leaked the day before Heard filed for divorce, and Vasquez asserts that TMZ now owns this clip because Amber sold it to them. Vasquez also questioned Amber Heard on how TMZ could have possibly gotten a hold of a video that was taken on Amber's cell phone, but Amber continued that she did not give the clip to the news outlet. Johnny Depp's psychiatrist has taken the stand during the trial between Depp and ex-wife Amber Heard, and he exposed that Depp did not want to get married to Heard, but she pushed him so hard for it, eventually he gave in to her demands. Let's get into all the details. Depp's psychiatrist, Dr. Alan Blaustein, took to the stand to speak about Depp's behavior and feelings during his relationship with Heard. While on the stand, Dr. Blaustein admitted that Johnny was not sure if he wanted to marry Amber or not. One of Depp's reservations was that he was 51 years old at the time and felt he was too old for the change. He also read a note where Depp described Heard as, quote, being my mother and psychotic sister, sharing reservations he had with their relationship in general. The psychiatrist claimed that Depp was paranoid during this time and had many issues that were caused by his chaotic relationship. After the shocking testimony, tweets went viral sharing the news. One tweet wrote, quote, per his psychiatrist notes, Johnny Depp did not want to get married to Amber Heard. We have seen from other witnesses that the wedding had been rushed and pushed for by Amber with no prenup. Another tweet read, quote, Johnny Depp's psychiatrist. He suffered with anxiety and depression. He compared Amber to his abusive mother. He had substances to numb his pain. He tried to leave Amber. Great witness for Amber. During his testimony, Dr. Blaustein shared Depp's issues with substances along with common feelings of rage and jealousy. He stated, quote, it was a very chaotic relationship and a lot of fluctuations, up and downs, lots of difficulties, emotional expressions, lots of anger in both places and high intensity, a lot of love, a lot of disappointment, a lot of fears. The doctor added, quote, part of his goal of therapy was to work through the anger that he and his fiancée had towards each other. The doctor met with Depp 18 times between October of 2014 and January of 2015, and he testified that the Pirates actor, quote, expressed having anger towards Amber and feelings of jealousy. The doctor even shared that Depp had similar feelings of rage and chaos in previous relationships, including with the mother of his children, Vanessa Paradis. Specifically, the former couple had many arguments about child care. The psychiatrist also testified that he and Depp spoke about his abuse as a child and how that affected his adult relationships. During the sessions, Depp did not speak of any physical violence with Heard, but claimed she was, quote, such a pain in the ass, and his relationship with Amber reminded him of his relationship with his psychotic sister and his mom.
Ironically, she has a little difficulty crying, acting-wise, so...
Amber Heard's acting coach just exposed her for fake crying during the trial, and this could be the final nail in the coffin to anyone supporting her. Let's get into the details. In pre-recorded testimony, acting coach Christina Sexton said Heard had, quote, difficulty crying acting-wise. Sexton worked with Heard from 2011 to 2017 and said she could tell when Amber Heard was genuinely crying because Amber struggled to produce real tears while acting. In the December 2019 deposition, the acting coach says she saw Amber cry multiple times during their sessions about her volatile relationship with ex Johnny Depp. Apparently, as the couple's relationship progressed and the fighting got heavier, quote, I would have to build in time because she'd be sobbing at the beginning of sessions and we couldn't work until we got her together. Sexton further described their relationship to the court. Apparently, they had more than a professional relationship and became friends over the years. Apparently, Heard even invited her acting coach on birthday trips and vacations. She testified that at the start of Heard and Depp's relationship, she witnessed the couple being, quote, incredibly lovey-dovey and passionate and always together in a positive way. But as time went on, that changed, and she saw Depp and Heard together less, along with hearing them get into arguments while Sexton was there for at-home acting lessons. Sexton added, quote, it went from being like a normal couple to very tension-filled, especially those last few months when they were together. Before her relationship with Depp, Heard was never late for their sessions. However, as time passed and things got worse in their relationship, Sexton claimed she needed to add in cushion time to their sessions because Amber would arrive frazzled or in tears and needed to be calmed down before they could do their acting work. Adding, quote, I would say that last year they were together, probably 80 to 90% of our sessions began with her crying. In her deposition, Sexton said she could tell when Heard's tears were genuine because, quote, ironically she has a little difficulty crying acting-wise. During Amber Heard's testimony, she cried on multiple occasions, or should I say attempted to cry, because most of the time it looked like she made the facial expressions of crying, but the tears did not come out. So many are thinking this testimony from the acting coach proves that Amber has been faking in court, and her strange behavior with crying is due to the fact that Amber is not very good at fake crying. Things are about to get a lot worse for Amber Heard, as an insider just claimed that Warner Bros. Held an emergency meeting to talk about the fate of Amber Heard in Aquaman 2, and spoiler alert, they want her completely gone. Let's get into the details. We already know that all anyone can talk about these days is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and the internet has placed their support firmly behind Johnny, with the vast majority of people believing Amber Heard is a manipulative liar. This is not the response that DC was looking for, as the company took a huge gamble including Amber Heard in the sequel for Aquaman, even with petitions at the time calling for her to be removed. As of now, a petition to have her cut from Aquaman 2 has reached a whopping 4 million signatures, and it's clearly making Warner Bros. Executives very concerned. An insider just reported that with all the negative media attention surrounding the trial, Warner Bros. Decided to hold an emergency meeting to discuss what to do about the Amber Heard problem. It's already been stated in court that Amber Heard's role in the film has been cut down dramatically, with her only appearing in roughly 10 minutes of the movie. President of DC Films Walter Hamada took the stand for 3 hours during Heard's trial, where he confirmed that her role in the movie movie was seriously diminished in the wake of the hatred against her. Heard agreed, saying in court, quote, "It was a very pared down version of the part that she was meant to play," claiming that Warner Brothers didn't want to put her in the movie at all. In court, Heard continued, quote, "I fought really hard to stay in the movie, they didn't want to include me in the film." During the deposition, the lawyer asked, quote, "Were you ultimately able to film in Aquaman 2? Heard replied, "A very pared down version of that role, yes." Then the lawyer responded, "What if anything changed in the script?" Heard continued, quote, "I was given a script, then given new versions of the script that had taken away scenes that had action in it, that depicted my character and another character without giving any spoilers away, two characters fighting with one another. They basically took a bunch out of my role. They just removed a bunch." As of now, we don't know if the claims made by this insider are true, but I think it's safe to say that DC is definitely having conversations about how they might move forward if Heard is found guilty of lying. And this is not the only problem facing Warner Brothers at this time. Most notably, the franchise is facing immense trouble with the Flash star, Ezra Miller, who seems to be getting arrested in Hawaii like once a month at this point.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Back in Time. For a second to start off with, we are going to take a step out of this ongoing trial and talk about something that happened back in 2009. During this time, Amber Heard was actually arrested and charged with hitting her then partner Tazia Van Ree. In the end, the charges were dropped, but this isn't where the lie comes in. The pair tried to claim that the only reason Heard was arrested was because the arresting police officer had realized that they were partners, not friends, and that the arrest motive was homophobia and prejudice. It was later found out that the officer who had arrested Heard was in fact part of the LGBTQIA+ community herself, and was actually an advocate and person who fought for equal rights. The officer spoke out after this entire ordeal, saying that despite these claims against her, she arrested Amber because an assault occurred and that she was the one who witnessed it in the first place. In our number 9 spot today, we have the bed. This is an incident that we had definitely heard stories of prior to this currently ongoing trial, but during the trial we heard it spoken about more in depth. Basically, Johnny and Amber had an argument, after which Depp had left to give some space. This is when it is said that Johnny's housekeeper sent him a photo of a less than pleasant surprise that she unfortunately was left to deal with. This horrible surprise turned out to be that someone had left fecal matter in the bed that the two had shared together. Depp told the courtroom in reference to the incident that, quote, "My initial response to that was, I laughed." He then went on to say, quote, "It was so outside, it was so bizarre and so grotesque that I could only laugh." He then goes on to explain that Amber had actually tried to lie about the incident, and in the 2020 trial, which we'll talk more about, she denied doing this. Amber is said to have tried to blame this mess on their dogs, but during this trial, Johnny has explained that the dogs they had were teacup Yorkies, about 4 pounds each. He certainly knows what their mess would look like, and according to Johnny, what was on the bed was not it. In our number 8 spot today, we have the makeup kit. During this currently ongoing trial, Amber Heard's lawyer showed the jury a makeup palette as part of their evidence. The makeup palette in question was Milani's all-in-one correcting kit, and the reason it was introduced into the trial is because it was stated that Amber used this specific product during her marriage in order to cover the bruises that she claims he gave her. Since this statement was made in court, Milani Cosmetics has actually come forward in the form of a TikTok to refute that evidence. The TikTok posted by the brand pointed out that this specified product was in fact not even released until 2017, which would contradict the evidence. This is because the alleged that this product was said to be covering up is said to have taken place between 2012 and 2016, which is obviously before the product was introduced to the market. It is possible that the lawyer may have just been pointing out this product as an example of the type of product she used, but it was definitely not this product as they seem to have claimed. In our number 7 spot today, we have Australia. So this is a claim that Amber made about a time that her and Johnny were in Australia together. Amber claimed that during this time she was held like a hostage for 3 days, and during these days she said she came to harm multiple times. Despite these very serious allegations, it later came to light that during this hostage situation she claims to have been in, she not only had her cell phone, but also there was security just outside of the door. She testified that she could have called anybody to come and get her at any point if she wanted to, despite previously saying those very serious things that she had mentioned prior. It is said that Amber claimed that on the second day of this 3-day hostage situation, which would have been March 7th, she endured a series of hours-long assaults But despite these claims, on that day there were several people at the house speaking with both of them, including medical professionals who of course recorded no such findings. In our number 6 spot today we have the recording. During trial, Amber claimed that she only hit Johnny Depp once and that she did so in defense of her sister. It is said that this alleged incident occurred in March of 2015, which is after the Australia incident we just spoke about. So, during trial, there has been a series of audio recordings that have been submitted as evidence. Many of these recordings were taken by both parties consensually, and this is said to have been a regular occurrence in their relationship. On one of these recordings, which was taken in September of 2015, Amber clearly admits to hitting Johnny, which is, of course, contrary to her statement saying she only hit him once in defense of her sister. Of course, Amber's sister Whitney was asked about this event, and Whitney backed up the claims made by Amber. This was again refuted by a declaration made by Whitney's best friend and former employer, Jennifer Howell, who claimed that at the time when this incident is said to have occurred, that Whitney had actually told her that Amber was abusing Johnny and that she feared Amber would kill him. Jennifer also stated that Whitney had actually moved in with her at one point because she was so afraid of her own sister. In our number 5 spot today we have the December 2015 claims. Back in December of 2015, Amber claimed that she suffered 2 black eyes, a broken nose, broken lip, bruised ribs, bruises on her forearms, bruises in her hairline, scalp and chin, missing hair, and wounds that had pus in them. These are obviously some serious injuries, and on the 17th, just days later, it is said that she saw 2 separate nurses who gave her physical examinations. During both of these exams, neither nurse found any bruise, either fresh or healing. One of the 2 found a bleeding lip, but the nurse's notes claimed that the skin was intact, it was a normal color, and there was no sort of concussion. These medical notes obviously paint quite a different picture from the extensive injuries she claims to have received. In our number 4 spot today we have the Psychologist. Just a few days ago during the trial, we heard a forensic psychologist testify named Dr. Shannon Curry, who was hired by Depp's legal team. During this testimony, she claimed that Amber Heard suffers from borderline personality disorder as well as histrionic personality disorder. Dr. Curry is said to have reached this diagnosis after interviewing Heard for 12 hours as well as after reviewing her mental health records. Now, while there's certainly nothing wrong with this diagnosis, this is where Dr. Curry's testimony brings up something that is in contrast to what Heard had previously claimed. Amber is said to have claimed to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, as a result of the things that she endured over the course of her relationship with Johnny Depp. Dr. Curry, however, directly contradicted this in her testimony, where she claimed that Heard in fact does not suffer from PTSD. It is thought that Depp's team hopes that this testimony may help their contention that Heard was the aggressor during the couple's relationship. In our number 3 spot today we have the story. This entire list is full of really serious things and really serious accusations, and this one is certainly high up on the list of the most serious things we're talking about today. This is actually something that came out in court during the trial that took place in 2020. During this trial, Amber Heard's former assistant Kate James came forward to tell quite a terrible tale. James explained that years ago, when she was in her 20s, she experienced a horrible sexual assault that has haunted her ever since. It's already a terrible story, but was even furthered when Kate explained, quote, "To my utter shock and dismay, I discovered that Miss Heard had in fact stolen my sexual violence conversation with her and twisted it into her own story to benefit herself. This of course caused me extreme distress and outraged that she would dare to attempt to use the most harrowing experience of my life as her own narrative." It was during this trial that Kate explained that although she had been subpoenaed to give evidence, she was doing so because she is, quote, "a sexual violence survivor, and it's very serious to take that stance if you are not one." This was the trial that Depp had brought forth against The Sun for publishing the op-ed written by Heard, and it was at that moment during the trial that the lawyer representing The Sun discontinued their cross-examination of Kate. In our number 2 spot today we have the LAPD testimony. Just a few days in court we saw Los Angeles police officer Melissa Sain's testimony. This officer had been one of those who responded on May 21st, 2016 to Amber's penthouse after there was a call regarding DV. The officer testified that that when she arrived at the scene, she found Amber crying and that her face was flushed red with emotion, but she explained that she didn't necessarily see any injuries. During the video deposition, the officer explained that, quote, "We met with the victim, we checked the location, the husband wasn't there, and that the victim advised us that she had just had an argument, and that she wasn't going to give us any further information. And because we didn't identify a crime, we issued her a business card, let her know that she could reach out to us later if she changed her mind and wanted to cooperate." It was just later that month, after this 2016 incident, that Heard filed a restraining order against Depp, accusing him of being violent towards her. In our number 1 spot today, we have the settlement. It is said that on multiple occasions, Amber claimed that the fund she received from her divorce settlements were funds that she would entirely be donating to charity. She is said to have claimed this on TV, in various newspaper articles, and even on court statements that were signed under oath. This was directly disproven, however, as that simply is just not true. Of course, being caught in this lie, especially one she spoke about while under oath, she was questioned about it. Amber claimed that she was unable to fulfill her pledge because of the fact that she had to defend herself in court in this defamation lawsuit, but again, this was able to be disproven. The money that was donated is said to have been done so in increments, with the last payment being in February of 2018. Johnny Depp did not sue Amber until 2019, marking the discontinuation of these payments at a time before she was being sued by Depp. At this point, it is unclear if she initially lied about her intentions and the amount she was going to donate, or if she was just lying about the reason why she stopped the payments. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Notting Hill. During Amber Heard's testimony, she spoke about her and Johnny's first time meeting and basically how they fell in love. So during this, she spoke about a time where Johnny was sober, he wasn't drinking alcohol, and instead he was drinking tea. Lots of tea. If you have been following the trial, her emphasis on how much tea he was drinking might have struck you as a little odd. I mean, I was watching it live and I was a little confused as to why she spoke about it so many times and seemed to care about it so much. Many people on the internet, however, are starting to believe that it may be a reference to Notting Hill. It's similar to a line that Julia Roberts is seen saying to Hugh Grant, and people out there think that the way Amber said it in her testimony was also a mimicked version of how Julia Roberts said it. It may seem like a small thing, but in the grand scheme of all of the quotes that we're going to talk about on this list today, it certainly becomes a little more interesting. In our number 9 spot today, we have Mildred Pierce. During Amber's testimony, she begins talking about what she claims is the first time Johnny hit her. While speaking about this, she claims that after this, Johnny said that he would, quote, rather cut off his hand, end quote, than lay another hand upon her. Many people believe that this is a line that was stolen right from the 1945 film Mildred Pierce. In this film, there's a scene where Mildred sort of suddenly lashes out and she ends up slapping Veda across the face. As Veda stands there looking surprised at what just happened, Mildred apologizes for her actions, saying, quote, "I'm so sorry I did that. I've had rather cut off my hand." The lines definitely are similar, whether or not they were directly stolen from these pieces of work. Maybe they're stolen, maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe it just shows how rehearsed the testimony is. In our number 8 spot today, we have the talented Mr. Ripley. This quote is definitely one of the most popular ones floating around the internet today, and it is said to be in reference to Amber Heard's opening statements. People are claiming that Amber was directly quoting the talented Mr. Ripley, which featured a character who would shower people with gifts and then sort of disappear, sort of similar to what Amber testified about her relationship with Johnny. While it's floating around the internet that she directly quoted the movie word for word, I could not find a timestamp where she took the quote directly. Instead, however, I could find things that would sort of suggest a similar story to what was seen in the movie. The quote people are referencing says, quote, "The thing with blank," Amber says Johnny, "it's like the sun shines on you and it's glorious, and then he forgets you and it's very, very cold. When you have his attention, you feel like you're the only person in the world. That's why everybody loves him so much." Amber didn't say these words exactly as far as I could find, but she does say something similar. She talks about a sort of warm glow that was felt at the beginning of their relationship, and that he showered her with gifts and made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world, and they would be in this bubble for 4 or 5 days at a time, but then he would suddenly just disappear. In our number 7 spot today, we have I Am a Killer. During Amber's testimony, she spoke about a time when she and Johnny were around another woman, and they were all under the influence of different substances at the time. Amber claimed that at one point this other woman leaned her head on Amber's shoulder, and she claims that this set Johnny off. She went on to allege that Johnny then at some point grabbed this woman's wrist and twisted it and pulled it towards him. It is then that Amber claims he said, quote, "Do you know how many pounds of pressure it takes to break a human wrist. She went on to say, quote, "He held her and she looked frozen. She's crying." Many people online have pointed out that this line, which she claimed he said, is actually something that was said by someone who appeared in the Netflix show I Am a Killer. In the Netflix show, the woman was serving a life sentence for taking the life of her former partner who had broken her hands in this exact same way. The episode in question was called In Her Hands. In our number 6 spot today, we have Shrek 2. Okay, this one is certainly probably the silliest on this list and definitely a little on the satire side, but the internet will always be undefeated in seeing something and running with it. This is a moment in the trial that someone on TikTok was quick to point out was kind of similar to a moment in Shrek 2 of all of the movies that exist. In the Shrek clip, Prince Charming is looking around going, "Whoa, what happened here?" In this TikTok clip, it quickly cuts to Amber, who says the exact same thing almost in the exact same way. I would definitely like to assume that she did not steal a line from Shrek 2 for her testimony, but at this point, really anything is possible. In our number 5 spot today, we have White Chicks. During Amber Heard's first day of testimony, she told quite a frightening story that she alleges is a real and true thing that Johnny did. She explained that there was a point where she had called Depp's sister, who is said to have showed up later to help remove Depp from the home, but as they were driving in the car, she told a terrible tale of what she says happens. She said, quote, "He has the window down. At some point he starts howling out the window and he grabbed Boo, his dog, a slightly chunkier teacup Yorkie. He grabs Boo and holds Boo out the window of the moving car. He's howling like an animal while holding the dog out of the window." She does go on to explain how everyone reacted in this situation, but people on the internet were quick to point out a hypocritical moment. Not only did people think that this story was taken straight out of the movie White Chicks, in which there is quite a similar scene as to what she just described, but there is also an Instagram photo that has since been circulating the internet of a similar scenario that Amber described, but in this scenario, it is very clearly Amber who is holding the dog out of the car window. This has all made people skeptical of this story she told and unsure of the truth behind it. In our number 4 spot today, we have True Detective. This is a moment that is similar to the I Am a Killer one we already talked about, and it's in reference to the part of Amber's testimony where she was speaking to an aggressive moment that happened on a flight between Amber, Johnny, and the flight attendant who was on the same flight at the time. Amber claimed that Johnny grabbed this flight attendant's wrist, slammed it down, and said something similar to how a few pounds of pressure could break it. One Twitter user was quick to point out the similarities between this testimony and a scene from True Detective Season 1. People seem to believe that this was taken from the show, considering the similarity of this story to the other one we already talked about, as well as the similarity to the show. It is compelling that people are pointing out that perhaps either of these women might have spoken out or testified if these stories were true, but of course that doesn't mean the story isn't true, it's just an interesting question we have to ask. In our number 3 spot today, we have the article. This is something that wasn't stolen from a movie or a piece of literature, but it is something that people have been pointing out because it seems as though it is untruthful, or at the very least in direct contrast to something she had mentioned prior to their divorce. Amber claimed during her testimony that prior to her relationship with Johnny, she wasn't a fan of his. She said she wasn't a fan of his art, but when fans found an article from years ago, they began to question just how true that really was. In the article, it is said that Amber, as a teenager, had photos of Johnny all over her room. A friend of hers told the Inquirer that Johnny was basically Amber's first love, that when she was a teenager, she had already decided to become an actor, and that she had photos of him all over her room. They finished by saying, quote, "So it's no surprise they fell in love while working together. Amber can usually get whatever she sets her mind to." In our number 2 spot today, we have Alpha Dog. This one is more of a theory in relation to the trial rather than a direct ripoff, but it certainly is interesting. So we have all heard the story of the poo on the bed at this point. If you haven't, basically it's just a story that suggests that Amber had left feces in the bed that she and Depp had shared together after a night of arguing. It is said that she tried to blame the mess on the pair's dogs, but many people have suggested that this was just a lie to cover the bizarre action. This theory in question is that this entire move was one that was stolen from the movie Alpha Dog. In the movie, which she actually was in, although it was a short appearance, one of the characters who is under the influence of certain substances decides to defecate on his enemy's rug as revenge. It certainly is a cinematic move, that's for sure. Whether this is true or not has yet to be proven, but it certainly is a compelling theory. In our number 1 spot today, we have Maid. People on Twitter pointed out a similarity in Amber's testimony to a Netflix series called Maid. People specifically pointed out the part where she was talking about how Johnny allegedly allegedly threw a glass in her direction, then punched a wall, then punched the wall right next to her. According to people who have seen the Netflix show, which is about a woman who is fleeing a very harmful relationship in order to provide a better life for her children, it is said that this scene is actually in the show. It is entirely possible that real life just happened to align with the show, but with everything else on this list, people certainly are more suspicious than they normally would be. Many people said that even during her explanation of this story, they vividly thought of this Netflix show.